You might be killing opportunities before they even get a chance to develop into pipeline. Do you have crappy leads, or are you just treating leads like crap? It's going to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to have the difficult conversations with you, because guess what? No one's having it with you. When we see prospects disappear or they ghost us, yes, there's some things out of our control. How do I get them into the green zone? You could be killing your deals without even knowing it. Stop killing your deals and giving them away to competitors that are not even as good as you. You might be killing opportunities before they even get a chance to develop into pipeline. And it's not that you're doing this intentionally, because you've been given the responsibility to build a sales process, build a team, and build a structure that's going to allow you to get money into the organization. However, sometimes by accident, we actually create an experience for a buyer that means that before they can even think about getting serious about like considering us as a partner, they're out the door. Let me tell you what that looks like. It means you have some interactions and then all of a sudden they ghost you. You're like, what happened? Where have they gone? Why are they not here? So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the thinking behind a buyer when they are interacting with your organization, and how we typically structure a conversation and why that puts our opportunity at risk, and then how we can rethink that conversation to ensure that if a prospect comes to us with a need that we know we can solve, we actually put ourselves in a better position to actually win that opportunity and of course a customer. So let's get into it. However, before we get into it, I just want you to think about something. Do you have crappy leads, or are you just treating leads like crap? I want you to sit with that for a second. I really do. If this is the first time that you're here on the channel, my name is Ajikawo. I'm the CEO and founder of Revenue Funnel. And at Revenue Funnel, we are a go-to-market consulting firm, and we help B2B companies to identify and solve the structural issues that are actually slowing down growth. Now, if that sounds interesting, hit me up. If not, keep watching. I actually like to create content that I think is rarely taught, but is actually really important, particularly when it comes to getting into the nuances of what it means to drive value for the market and also our organizations. So enough of that. Let me get into it, because I'm just free flowing today, because I had a video planned out and I was really excited. I was like, this is going to be a great one. It's coming, don't worry. I had a couple of notes because I like to just at least, you can tell that I talk a lot. So I need to add a bit of structure. I need to put a couple of bullet points down so I can follow it. I don't want to do that. So here we are, just me chatting. So are we killing deals? Yeah, that sounds good. Are we killing? That's a lot of L's. Deals. I've just loaded a new notepad and it's very bumpy. So in previous videos, I was talking about the difference between sales process, sales methodology, and deal qualification. So just as a quick reflection, I want us to just think about sales and sales process. I like to get everyone grounded. So think about sales. What is a sale, right? So sales is the exchange of goods and services for money. So when we think about that, what we're trying to do with a sales process is create the semi-linear steps that take an opportunity, let's use dollar because we like dollars, that take an opportunity that shows early potential through a set of structures and things and steps, flow, whatever, that increases our chances, ideally, of turning that into a deal. So the sales process gives us that structure. It allows us to have more control. And when we have control and structure, it means it's something that we can put targets towards. It means we can measure it, we can iterate it on it, we can improve it, we can make changes. Without structure, everything is left down to the discretion of a rep or a particular individual in the organization. And what that means is that you don't know what works and what doesn't work. It's hard to scale. And if you do try to scale, it's very expensive. So that's our sales process. We know what a sale is. We know what a sales process is. Now, as I've explained before, there is a journey that is also taking place at the same time that we're trying to take this sales process and drive prospects through it. And that's the prospect or buyer journey, where they are going through their own steps in order to actually make a decision, informed decision about an outcome that they want or a desired outcome that they want. So let's just put that here, because I'm trying to get all the variables down, right? So we've got the buyer journey, right? So they are also going through some steps. So let's just say this is plus. They're going through some steps here. And these steps are where, for them, it's a minus, where they're saying, okay, we have a desired outcome that we want. That desired outcome is going to mean for us, in whatever form you want to call it, it's going to mean more, it's going to be more revenue, right? Everything rolls down to money. Literally everything is about money. So they go through a process of trying to understand what they need to do, understand their problem, understand what's happening in their organization, what it's going to take in order for them to get for a place where they're going to put in something. There's going to be an input for the majority of the time. That's going to be money. That's going to drive a desired outcome that once it all comes to fruition is also going to equal money. So they're like, we're going to put this in, then we're going to get that out. And that's really their return on investment. Now, this whole process only takes place simply because people are trying to manage risk. And I mentioned this in another video. I can't use yellow. That won't be sensible. So let's get some red. So both of these processes are all about risk. Okay. So the sales process helps an organization to de-risk the process or de-risk the probability of money not entering their organization. So if we have a process in place where we do these things and we know that we're going to take these people through these steps, then we really do increase our chances of getting money in the business. At the same time, the buyers are saying, well, I'm trying to de-risk my purchase because I need to speak to people. I need to understand how you work. I need to understand where you operate. I need to understand how much time it's going to take, how much effort. I need to understand all of these pieces before I can make a decision that is informed about where I make the investment and how likely it is that it's going to come to fruition so that we can make money inside our organization. And this is where I talk about the value cycle, okay? So value makes the world go round, okay? So you have your company here. So your company, they create something of great value, and then your customer receives that value and they're like, great, now that we've received the value from the input that you've given us, we can feed that back into the market. And when we feed that back into the market, guess what happens? Other people get value, and then you are in a position to continue to do that and continue to create value, right? So there's value creation on one side, there's value realization on the other side. And when that value is realized, that creates value from the customer as well. It's just a cycle. Value makes the world go round. It's not even money, it's value. Okay, now that we understand that, let's talk about how we get to a point where we can start to figure out, are we creating issues for ourselves and are we actually killing deals? And I'm going to show you something. It's going to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to have the difficult conversations with you because guess what? No one's having it with you. And if they are, it's not clear enough. And you're like, I know you said a lot of stuff, but I don't get it. I say a lot of stuff too, and you may not get it. So just rewind or pause it or put it on 0.75. So how are we killing deals? Now, what I want to do is I want to look at, I'm going to draw a graph charty thing, and it appeared in one of my other videos, but I want to flip it for you this time. So what I want you to look at here is on this axis, we're going to have time, and on this axis, we're going to put risk. Remember, we're trying to manage risk. So what happens here is, I'm going to try and use red ink. This is a lot of colors, actually. We're going to use black, and then we're going to add the color afterwards. So I want this time to, let's assume it's the sales process, okay? Time in sales process, buyer journey. Well, I hope you can see the bottom. It says buyer journey, I promise, buyer journey. So this is the time and this is the risk, okay? Now what happens is when your prospect first engages with your organization, now let's just say before they interact with a person, they're interacting with marketing. What are marketing trying to do at that point? Marketing are trying to deliver a message that is effectively a value proposition. A value proposition is a promise to deliver a particular outcome for someone. So when they are throwing that out there, your prospect is grabbing onto that and they're saying, you know what? This has sparked something in me and my organization where I feel like I'm going to make an exchange. Now, my exchange at this time is usually going to be my time, reading something, maybe researching something, downloading something, whatever, and my data. So when they've done that, they're in the kind of like intent. They're in the intent window. You're like, woo, they're engaged. Now, at this stage, they're getting to a point where they're trying to understand what's happening in their organization. So this was a really, I'm curious about this thing. I'm getting a little bit more interested in what this company's sharing. And I'm on their website. I'm clicking around stuff. I'm downloading stuff. And now I'm becoming more informed about the issues and challenges inside my organization. I feel like I might take action. I am motivated to take a little bit of action. And that action is, I've done some research. I realize this is quite important in my business. Let me go talk to someone. Let me go see what's happening. The first time they interact with you, remember, this is their buyer journey, right? Where they're trying to understand the investments. At this time, it's usually time, and then it's managing the risk towards the desired outcome. The risk is pretty high. And what I mean this is we're looking at the risk in the context of their buyer journey. Because think about it. I want you to think about the end result, which is I'm going to spend some money, some time, some effort, etc. I'm going to invest that so that I can get a desired outcome. The risk of them doing that in the beginning is very high because they don't know enough. They don't really know you. So they're coming in with their guard up. They're not always very open. They don't often know very much. And they're trying to learn. They're either trying to learn or they're trying to validate what they've already learned. And as they go through their process, that kind of risk starts to decrease because they become more informed. So the risk of them doing business and solving this problem gets lower because they know a bit more about how much it costs. They know the strengths and weaknesses of different providers and what the different options are in the market. They know how much time it might take and what additional resources they need. That's not something they could do right in the beginning of their buyer journey. They didn't know enough. So they couldn't be like, okay, I have received a marketing message and I am now going to spend £100,000 because I like the idea of this. You wouldn't do that. They can't do that yet. They need to understand what's involved in order for them to get to that desired outcome. So what we see is as they get to, and it could go up a bit, could go down a bit, but effectively, as they get towards the end of a buying engagement or process, they have de-risked this so much that they're now at a point where they're like, we know what decision we want to make. Sometimes that is no, but there's even risk associated with a no, and there's also risk associated with a yes. We see the risk as yes because we're like, but I want to win that deal, I want that commission. The risk of yes and no, because there's also a cost of inaction, okay? That's a whole nother video. Now, with this in mind, I just want to show that this is the red zone, okay? This is really the red zone. Those interactions, right, in the early stages is the red zone. So if I was going to think about the red zone here, that would be things like, I don't have enough information to answer all the questions in the world. I may not have a business case. I don't know enough. I'm not too keen on this at all. I've been dragged into this. I don't trust you. I don't know you, salesperson, customer success person, business person. I don't know much about the market. I don't know much about a lot. A lot of this is like, I'm still learning. So they are hoping to be educated and validate, all right? So either educate in these early stages or validate what they know. I'm gonna now focus on the sales process. Some of you may already start to think, I know what's gonna happen here. So let's just say the sales process is intro call, like some kind of intro call, some kind of, maybe it goes to a disco demo, right? So discovery and a demo. And then once it gets past here, they're like, we like this. So let's just say maybe there's like a proposal. I'm just going to keep it simple for today. There's a proposal, there's some kind of like verbal commit, and then there's like a close, right? There's there's usually 5 to 7 stages in most sales processes. So let's just assume you know what yours looks like. So don't at me. All right. So during the intro call, it's that first interaction. So it could be with a sales rep, it could be with a junior rep. A lot of times we have junior reps, okay? It may not be called an intro call. It may actually just start as a discovery call. Remember the zone that these individuals are in. And now I want you to think about the conversations and the experience that's created in those early days. First things first, at this early stage, what we're trying to do as a revenue organization is qualify. We're like, we need to qualify if these people are worth our time, because we don't talk to people that ain't about to spend money with us in the next 24 hours. They can go away. They can go to our crappy competitors, okay? So we're trying to qualify them, and we're asking a series of questions to try to extract that information. Now, it doesn't matter what qualification framework you use. I don't care what you do. All I'm saying is, right now, we're saying to them, I need knowledge of everything that's happening inside your organization before I can even push you through to the next thing. What's happening with the buyer at that stage? 2 things. They are either trying to be educated on something that they're curious about or showing interest in, or maybe genuinely could be impacting their organization today, or they're trying to validate what they have discovered so far based on what is happening in the market, their desktop research, conversations, events, meetings, your marketing, etc. So when we are coming in and immediately we're saying, hey, thank you for the call. So tell me more about your problem. How much is it going to cost? What is the issues going on in your organization? Blah, 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 blah. They're like, I don't feel like I want to reveal this yet. Let me give you an example. I met with a company for our project management system. We were looking for a project management system because we were getting sophisticated and we wanted to make sure that we can manage clients' projects outside of Asana, no offense Asana, love you, and spreadsheets. Now, on the first call that I had with the sales rep regarding this particular project management system, they said, so tell me about your profit margins. I kid you not, that may have been in the first 2.5 minutes. Tell me about your profit margins and how's the business doing so far? I was like, what? And they're like, what's your revenue? And I was like, okay, here's the bracket. So they said, okay, so tell me more about how the spend is this. And I was like, God, I'm not telling you that. Like, I don't even know you, bro. Like, why are you asking me all these questions? You could be anyone. Like, I barely remember the company. Give me some context. So we have to be really careful that in this high risk area, those first interactions, we're changing the dynamic of that conversation to, I need to qualify you to let me help you qualify where you are in your own process and your own buyer journey. Because once I help you do that, then I can be the person that you need in that moment so that this doesn't feel so heavy for you. And I can get you to a place where you learn more so that you kind of come down as fast as possible, right? So you go from the red zone of not knowing anything, can't make a decision yet, to learning more, to even getting to a place where very early on, you know so much and I've helped you make sense of all the information that you've got, that you feel a bit more confident that the decision that you may or may not make to make a change in your organization to hit a desired outcome feels more feasible, feels more informed, and it doesn't feel so risky. But what we don't do is we don't do this. So what happens is during those early interactions, we are instead creating this red zone that they stay in, because they're like, you're just coming at me. And okay, yeah, fine, I'll have the demo with your senior salesperson and your pre-sales person, but I still don't feel like I have a better understanding of what I'm going through and what I need. I know about your product, and now I'm trying to put the dots together with what I need. I need you to help me understand where I'm at. And buyers will not tell you that. They're not always that experienced, right? Sometimes you get a junior person in to do research, and sometimes they are generally information gathering, and that's okay. But for the most part, there are people that really want to come in and they're like, I hope we get closer. I hope we move forward with our own understanding here, okay? So just to kind of bring this back to, okay, Hannah, so what does that now look like? What do we do? Well, one of the things that we want to do, let's just say red zone, right? So I'm going to say the red zone is, so the buyer red zone is the initial call, sometimes the first sales interaction. And I would say the kind of discovery / demo. Now, at this early stage, we have a sales process. We need to do our job and tell the organization where a potential opportunity is in the structure that we've created to help us make money, okay? Which is the sales process. So we can't just like not do that. It's very important that we do that, but we need to get into the buyer mindset around this so we're not killing opportunities. So what that looks like here is in these initial calls and the first sales interactions and the discovery, the demos, all of these pieces, we have to understand that the buyer's mindset is something that looks a little bit like this. I was going to draw a brain. Should I do it just for jokes? Okay, is that what it looks like? Or is that more like a heart? Buyer brain. Man, who needs AI when you have Hannah's drawings? All right, so the buyer's mindset is, I don't know. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Who are you? And why should I trust you? What have you done? Prove yourself to me. This is your first date. And they're saying, I need to know something. And your job is to know what? So in those early interactions, you've got to think about it. There's going to be information they want. What do buyers really want in early calls? Think about it. There's some of the questions they ask that you don't want to give them answers to. How much does it cost? How much time? Who do you compete against? Why? What's your USP? All these things. Price is something we never give away for first calls because it's often being handled by junior reps. And we're like, don't give them a price. That would be ridiculous. Let me ask you a question. When you walk into a store to buy a drink, would you stay in the store and go take that drink to the till without seeing a price tag? Probably not. And how much is that? £1, $2? Like, you won't even take the risk of going to the till out of embarrassment that you get to the till when they're like £5. And you're like, oh God, yeah, it's just water. It's not that deep. Unless, of course, the circumstances mean that it is deep and you really do need to spend whatever it takes to survive. But in reality, you need that visibility. It's like a frame. Psychologically, you need to put this thing into a container so that you're like, okay, that either meets my expectations or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, but this is the norm, then damn, we've got a lot of things wrong internally, because now I've got to tie that back to everything else we're doing. I know we have zero budget. Like there's all these thoughts, but when you give them nothing, you keep them really high in the red zone. So what I'd be trying to do during those early interactions is say, how do I achieve a few things? So what's the best way to do this? I would say, how do I get them into the green zone? So let's say, so we want to move them into the green zone. So what does the green zone look like? The green zone says, I need to help them. I need to inform and educate. I need to inform and educate. So this is really where a buyer has shared a little bit about what's happening in their organizations, why they joined the call, why they accepted your cold outreach or warm outreach, why they attended the event and all of that. And we're just trying to understand how to connect the dots between the thing that you solve, that value proposition that they effectively said yes to. So you've basically gone out to the market and said, hey, prospect, we do X, Y, and Z that helps companies achieve X, Y, and Z. They said yes to that value proposition. So there's something in there that rings true to what it is that's happening in their head, in their organization, or in a particular business unit. So our job is to continue to inform and educate them about that thing. So as they've shared their interest and their curiosity and what's happening for them, and we have our value proposition over here, the value proposition expires after this call. Bro, the value proposition expires. Like, you can't just keep making this promise, because it now needs to get to a point where we connect the dots to what's happening in their organization. I call that perceived value. It's the perception of value. It increases because you're now connecting it to my world. It's not just we help retailers to increase their foot traffic in store. It's gone beyond that to we actually help garden centers to get more people to buy spades. I'm so bad at these things. Why do you guys allow me? Why do you even watch these videos? All right, so we want to inform and educate them. The next thing that we want to do is validate. And this is where in those early conversations, when they're in the red zone, where they're in the mind of, I don't really know, I don't know why I'm here, I'm really fed up. Like, we want to ask questions like, tell me a bit more about what you've done so far. So no expectations at this stage, but when it comes to increasing foot traffic in your store, I know that there's a lot of change that's happened over the last few years, such as X, Y, Z. Give them buckets, because they don't want to, why are you straining my brain to make me think? Tell me what I should be thinking about. And guess what? Like magic, the prospect will respond in exactly one of those 2 or 3 containers that you've given them, because they don't want to think. The brain is like, stay safe, don't overthink, don't stress yourself out. If they give you something, take it. This is the magic. You tell them the 4 things that they may have done, they're going to tell you they've done one of them, or it's a little bit different. So we need to validate what they've learned so far, what they've done so far. I call this collecting the breadcrumbs. Now, what this does is, remember, we get to tell them at this stage, yep, that looks good. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's quite typical. We see that a lot. Yeah, okay, nice, okay. So that risk, you see that risk of making a decision in those early interactions is come down a little bit now, because now they're like, oh, I'm on the right page. Okay, we're on the right page. We're doing okay. We haven't made any mistakes yet. We didn't make that purchase. We didn't go down that alley. Because sometimes, have you ever spoken to a prospect and they say, oh yeah, we hired this type of thing, and you're like, oh, and they're like, yeah, it didn't work, and you're like, oh, that's them making a terrible decision. Okay, so, but we need to know that early on, because now we're going to help them minimize that risk. Well, now you know that thing doesn't work, you're down a level. Okay, and also with the inform and educate for them, imagine coming in, I want to give another example here. So you are going to the gym for the first time and you want to do a deadlift or a squat. You know that can take you out if you get that wrong. Now, it's your first ever time in the gym and you're like, I was told that this is the thing to do. This is the thing that's going to give me the glutes of life and make my quads and my hammies so strong. I'm going to have a strong back. I'll be able to do pull-ups, all of the amazing things. Now, the risk of you going, if you walked into a gym and just picked up 100 kg, firstly, you wouldn't be able to. But if you went into the gym and just put, all the plates on, 100 kg, pulled yourself up, you could be wiped out for 7 months. Back, gone, left the conversation. Now imagine you did some research, because remember, you're going from decision to get strong and do a deadlift so that you're amazing and you can do pull-ups to actually doing it. And the investment is, I need to train. Okay, but you need to inform yourself of how to do that safely to reduce the risk of you taking yourself out and not actually reaching that desired outcome, which is strength, nice glutes, nice hammies, nice quads, and being able to do pull-ups. So it's the same thing. That inform and educate means that as I learn more about how to solve this issue, challenge, or opportunity for my organization, that means that as I take a decision, it's going to increase the likelihood of me getting my desired outcome, because now I know how to make an informed decision. And remember that the decision to reach a desired outcome can be a yes or no, which means it's just too much. We can't do it right now. Timing, effort, resources, all those things, money. Okay, so the more we inform and educate, the more we get people out of the red zone. And remember, the red zone is the part that is the highest risk. It's the point where they are very, very early on in their journey about making a decision. And they can't just make it on day one because they don't have enough information in order to say yes or no. So the risk is just too high. They're just in this space of, So when we see prospects disappear or they ghost us, yes, there's some things out of our control, but the things that we can control is we haven't done a great job here. We haven't given them enough information to get them a little bit more into the green zone, or I should say even the orange zone early on, so that they feel motivated and galvanized to keep going. Instead, they come out of those interactions having spoken to 4 or 5 vendors, 2 or 3 crappy sales reps, and now they're like, what's happening here? Like, what am I even doing? Like, I'm still like scared to do anything. I'm too scared. Like, you want me to buy this AI platform. I don't know what you're going to do with my data. I don't know if it's secure. I don't know what's going on. It sounded great. I got it. You can help me get in touch with 1 million customers every minute. Sounds great. The scale is incredible. But I don't know about this decision. We have to get them into the orange and then the green zone. So what I'd be thinking about is, what are the questions when you think about, okay, so Hannah, how do we really create an environment in that first space, the first interactions where people feel like I'm in the green zone, the risk is coming down, I'm willing to continue going on? First things first, inform and educate the prospect, identify where they are in their journey. Is this your first few calls, or are you just trying to, is this something that come up internally, or have you been working on this for a while? Just get them to tell you, oh, really early stages, really late stages. Okay, cool. So what have you done so far? Inform, educate, validate. When they start telling you stuff, or we've done this, oh, do you know that this, we had a customer, or this happened this way, and we saw in the market, blah, blah, blah. Here's a report, here's research, here's data. Validate what they know. Now, what we want to do is very specifically, is when we're informing and educating, we need them to know very early on how much, I call this the terms of business. I'm going to make a whole video on this, but this is just very quickly. We need them to know how much time, T is for time, how much time is going to be involved in making this change, because that brings down the risk, okay? They need to know how much time is going to be involved in making this change. They need to understand the effort, okay? How many things do I need to do? It's going to take this much time. If it's one task, there's not much switching cost. If there's 27 things that I need to do over 3 weeks, I'm out. It's too risky for us right now. We ain't got the time. See how it goes back to time? How much resource is it going to take? Oh, so you're telling me in order for me to do this whole increase my footfall in my retail store, I've got to bring in finance. We've got to do this kind of spatial analysis, and too risky right now. We can't do that. Too risky. We can't do that right now. So we can't make a yes decision, or we can't make a no decision, right? So we want to understand the resources. Then we get to money, right? How much is it going to cost? Give them a bracket. Prospect is really early stages right now. Love that you're already thinking about cost, okay? That's exactly, I'd love to be able to provide this for you, but let's just hold back. I'll be realistic with you right now. It's going to be anything between 15K and it could be upwards of 60. I don't really know. In that moment, even your most junior rep will catch the sentiment in their body language where they're like, oh, okay. It's automatic. Most people do not have a poker face, right? When you tell them something costs 15K, they're even thinking in their head, that's a bargain, what the hell? Or they're like, whoa, yeah. I didn't know that. I need to stop dropping this. I did not know that it was going to be that much. We need to just think about everything now. And they tap out, their head tap. You'll see it on a call where they're like, yep, okay, yep, cool, okay. Because they're like, we've just got all of our initial research is wrong, okay? And then S is, didn't need to do an S. Okay, let's just do status. So, in order for me to reduce the risk at the earliest stages of the interaction with a prospect, I need to help them understand the impact, both positive and negative, on their business and them as an individual. They need to understand, like, will this make me look good or bad? How would this make our business look? If we say that we now have this spatial tracking awareness stuff to our retail partners, the companies that give us their products to put in our stores, then maybe we have another data point where we can actually sell additional things to our partners. We might be able to attract more stuff, more jeans, more tops. I don't know. We might be able to attract more products in the store because we are giving a broader value proposition. So we have to think about, how do we, when we're informing and educating prospects in the really early stages, how do we help them to de-risk their decision making so that they get into the green zone faster? And you know what the great thing about getting into the green zone faster. What do you think happens if the risk goes down faster? They close deals faster, okay? And this is why I do not subscribe to people saying that sales processes are just really long. They're so long. We make them long because both prospects and vendors have subscribed to the idea that it just takes a lot of time to do things, to de-risk stuff. If you really wanted to, you could put 25 people in the room who make the decisions and they could all make the decision in one day, if you wanted to. But we don't, because we subscribe to things taking long. So let's change this whole diagram, actually. Let's draw it on the other page. So what can this look like if we get it right? This is what it can look like. And this is where the exciting things happen, all right? So we've got that risk, I'm gonna call it risk, and we've got time. And we've got stuff like initial call, demo, proposal, close. Proposal without an R, proposal. Okay, cool. Now, really early, high risk up here in the first interaction. They come in and they're like, I don't wanna be here. I don't know why I'm here. I know you reached out to me, but now I'm here. I wish you canceled, okay? And we're like, don't worry. Hey, how's it going? Tell me a bit more about your day. Ask questions like, when's the last time you had a big belly laugh? They're like, this is a different interaction. Guard down. We hit them with a really slick intro. We give them a bit of a recap. We help to understand the agenda. We invite them to add items onto the agenda. We tell them what's the one thing you need from me today? What's the one thing you want to walk away with that makes you think that this is going to be the best use of your time? What's the one thing you want to bring back to your team so that when we have the next call, setting an assumption, right? When we have the next call, if it makes sense, giving them an out, then they have enough information to join us. Give them that opportunity. And then we go in to ask the opening question that is going to be something along the lines of, so just walk me through exactly how things currently work in your business, whatever it is. And then they're going to tell you a story, okay? So the story happens, I should have had a thinner pen. Let's try this. Okay, so it's story time. Story time. As they tell us the story, we're picking up the stuff that they're saying, we're picking up the themes and we're understanding, and we're like, boom, okay. I'm about to take them to the orange zone, okay? So we're doing this early, first few calls, okay? It may not be the first call, but the first few interactions. So, oh, wow, okay. So you said that you currently do this and you currently do that. Amazing. So they ask you a question. So how does it usually work, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no problem. Let me tell you some stuff, yo. Inform and educate, green zone activities. And they're like, oh, okay, I just thought this was this. And now I understand that this is how this can happen when it comes to the desired outcome. I've learned something. I'm out of the red zone. I'm relaxed as a person. I'm relaxed in my understanding about my business context now because I'm learning, okay? And then what we want to do is they're going to be explaining more stuff and they're going to ask more questions and we're going to start asking them questions. So tell me more about what you've done so far. Tell me more about the team. Where did this come from? What was the catalyst for this change or this conversation? You could be doing anything else. Why are you thinking about spending time on this now? You mentioned that you've been looking at this for about a year. What's happened in that year that's progressed or made you regress with regards to reaching that desired outcome? Like, get the questions out, okay? Because when you do that, you are in a better position to finally validate, okay? So now we're in a position where we can start to validate what they've done so far. And what does that do when we validate it? When we tell them you're on the right path, or actually, this is the direction you're going next, or let me just share a little bit more about how someone else did this, or let me just show you the things that you're going to have to do internally. We're informing them, educating them, and validating what they've done so far, so we are on the same page. What we tend to do is we never validate. We ask so many questions, we never align, we never check that we're on the same page with the prospect, and then we go off on some ideas. And when your manager starts asking questions, you're like, yeah, I think so. They didn't say that exactly. And when you're going through your transcript, you're like, did they ask about this? And your transcript, your AI tool's like, well, they didn't explicitly say this, but we could possibly take from this sentence that no, explicit. We want them to say it. So we validate that. Now we get to a point really early on where we want to try and get them into the green zone here for the rest of their interaction with us. Because ideally what we want to do is this close, we don't even want it to be over a long period of time. We want the close to happen here because they have everything they need, right? So when we're getting into this stage very early on in the deal, we need them to understand the time, the effort, the resources, the money, the status, the risk to their organization. So it drops dramatically. Now you have to understand when it comes to status, it could be anything around security, all that stuff. Why would you wait until your proposal's out before you start sharing ISO certification, SOC 2, all that stuff? I would be saying from the outset, in the early conversations, I will be saying, hey, you know what? There's one thing that customers always have to understand pretty early on when we're speaking to them when it comes to our legal setup. I worked for a company once where we only sold to $1 billion organizations, but we had a really complicated licensing around where data goes. So we had to make them sign our legal contracts. Do you know how hard it is to get a $1 billion company like Amazon to sign your paperwork? Very hard. But we had to have a meeting with legal really early on to help them understand why it's so important that they use our terms. And they literally take our whole MSA and put it into theirs because we needed those terms to be in there. So these are the kind of things that we can do early on. Do not subscribe to these later conversations, because what you're doing, as I said in the first little pad, is you may be killing deals early because you are not de-risking the process for prospects early on enough. Imagine that your competitor wins and they're not even as good as you, but it's simply because they gave so much information, helped to validate, inform, educate, a lot of that up front, instead of asking so many questions that the prospect's like, I just feel like I've asked you so much stuff. Are you going to get to a point when you tell us some things, please? I need to go back to my manager with something, okay? So I say all this to say, you could be killing your deals without even knowing it, simply because you are creating an environment where your prospect is kept in the red zone for so long until they get to a proposal, which means by now they're like, it's not even that, the risk is high. Sorry, that's even drawing it wrong, right? It just kind of like, it goes like this, right? Rather than coming down, where what we want to see is it goes lower, lower, lower really quickly. And we see this because they find out more, so it's less time to actually close. So yeah, don't let me draw graphs. In my head, this is brilliant. In your head, you're like, what did she just do? All right, so our job is to make sure that we can get the risk down as fast as possible by doing more of the right things, okay? So stop killing your deals and giving them away to competitors that are not even as good as you. Okay, I guess that's it for today. See you in the next video.